The United Nations just launched a planetary defense exercise targeting 3I Atlas. New images show a tail stretching 5 million kilometers, and Professor Avi Loeb just identified what he's calling the 12th anomaly. We're now about 20 days from the closest approach to Earth. Here is everything that has happened in the last few days. As always, I'm here to report the information without bias, and you can decide what to believe. You can find the sources in my detailed articles at ufonews.co, along with in the description box below. Hey ufologists, I'm Christina Gomez, and welcome to this episode of UFO News Updates. Let's start with the biggest news. On November 25th, the International Asteroid Warning Network officially kicked off its observing campaign for 3I Atlas. This is the same organization that tracks potentially hazardous asteroids and issued an alert earlier this year when asteroid 2024 YR4 appeared to be on a collision course with Earth, with a 1% probability of hitting the planet. According to the official announcement from the Minor Planet Center, this campaign will run from November 27, 2025 through January 27, 2026. It is the 8th observed exercise since 2017 and the first time they have ever targeted an interstellar object.
They didn't touch on that. Again, they try to downgrade any mysteries about the object.
The International Asteroid Warning Network states that comets create unique challenges for accurate measurements because their fuzzy appearances, including their coma and tails, can pull measurements away from where the actual nucleus is located. Without accurate positioning data, calculating a reliable orbit becomes extremely difficult. Now, according to NASA, 3I Atlas poses no threat to Earth, but as the ESA noted, this is a valuable exercise for planetary defense, practicing with real data from an interstellar object. Now, let's talk about the new images. Over the past few days, amateur astronomers around the world have captured some of the best views yet of 3I Atlas. Really, anything's better than what NASA's given us. The standout image was taken by Mitsunori Samura on November 22nd using a half-meter telescope. At the time of the image, 3I Atlas was approximately 300 million kilometers from Earth. According to Professor Avi Loeb's analysis published on Medium, the tail in this image extends approximately 5 million kilometers. The antitail, which is the unusual globe pointing towards the sun rather than away from it, extends about 1 million kilometers. To put that in perspective, Earth is about 12,700 kilometers in diameter. This tail is nearly 400 times the diameter of our planet.
I would like to know the speed of the jets and the composition of the jets, because that would tell us whether it's naturally produced. These jets are produced by pockets of ice illuminated by sunlight, or if the speed of the gas in them is much greater, it would imply a technological thruster associated generating each of these jets.
Additional images from Peter Carson Lay on November 22nd and Walter on November 24th show the same consistent structure. A glowing coma with tightly collimated anti-tail and tail extending in both directions. This brings us to what Professor Loeb is now calling the 12th anomaly. Back in July and August, astronomers measured the rotation period of 3I Atlas at about 16 hours. Here's the problem. If the object is rotating every 16 hours while shooting out jets, those jets should appear smeared or spread out in the images. They should look like spirals, not straight lines. But the images from November 9th show tightly collimated jets extending over 1 million kilometers. They appear straight and not smeared. According to Loeb, one possible explanation is that the object's rotation has slowed down since July. However, he notes that asymmetric outgassing typically speeds up during rotation, not slow down. Another possibility is that the pockets of ice are located in specific positions, kind of like deep valleys, that only receive direct sunlight at certain angles. And this would create pulsating outflows rather than continuous streams. And this theory was provided during the latest NASA briefing.
For example, with the Webb telescope, in the coming weeks, we can search for heat coming out of 3I Atlas that cannot be accounted for by the illumination from the sun and maybe is related to an engine. That would be really interesting to look for. So you need to have it in mind. You need to search for technological signatures in order to find them.
There is so much more to cover, including the Jupiter encounter next March, so don't go anywhere. Now, here's where the numbers get pretty interesting. According to Loeb's latest calculations, the anti-tail is powerful enough to penetrate through the solar wind, and the solar wind travels at about 400 kilometers per second. For the anti-tail to push through that, it needs to carry an enormous amount of material. Based on his estimations, 3I Atlas has lost several billion tons of mass over the past 2 months. If this is a natural comet, that would represent roughly 10% of its estimated minimum mass. But to lose that much material through normal ice sublimation, the object would need a surface area much larger than what Hubble measurements suggest. Loeb notes that technological thrusters could achieve the same acceleration with far less mass loss because they produce higher exhaust speeds. He emphasizes that spectroscopic measurements in December could help distinguish between natural sublimation and alternative explanations. So what happens next? Well, on December 19th, 2025, 3I Atlas will make its closest approach to Earth at a distance of approximately 270 million kilometers. That's about 1.8 times the distance between the Earth and the Sun.
You shouldn't downgrade the mystery, rather than you should emphasize it and say we need as much data as possible. Here is the data we have, and here are the big questions that we can address with future data, much better quality. They didn't do that.
But December is not the end of the story. On March 16th, 2026, 3I Atlas will pass Jupiter. And according to Avi Loeb's calculations, it will arrive at precisely the distance where Jupiter's gravity dominates over the Sun's gravitational pull. This is called the Hill radius. Now you might ask, Christina, why does this matter? Well, inside the Hill radius, any objects released by 3I Atlas could remain in orbit around Jupiter rather than being pulled away by the Sun.
It arrives just at the right distance so that Jupiter's gravity will overcome the Sun's tidal gravity, and anything it releases there will stay there, which suggests why did it arrive exactly at the distance? In order perhaps to release some probes near that planet.
NASA's Juno spacecraft, which is currently orbiting Jupiter, will use its antenna to search for low-frequency radio signals from 3I Atlas during this encounter. And the search will cover frequencies from 50 Hz to 40 MHz. The ESA's Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer, known as JUICE, has already observed 3I Atlas in November. However, according to the ESA, that data will not be available until February of 2026 due to the rate at which the spacecraft transmits information back to Earth. If you want to try and observe 3I Atlas for yourself, here's what you need to know. Right now, the object is located in the constellation Virgo, shining at approximately magnitude 9 to 10, and that is far too faint for the naked eye, but it is reachable with a medium-sized telescope under dark skies. For observers in the northern hemisphere, 3I Atlas raises in the early morning and is visible in the pre-dawn sky. You will need at least an 8-inch telescope to have a chance at spotting it. According to NASA, the object will remain observable until spring of 2026, after which it will exit our solar system and never return. I will continue posting updates as new data comes in, so make sure you are subscribed so you do not miss it. Do you think the International Asteroid Warning Campaign signals that officials are taking this object more seriously than what they're publicly stating? Or is this simply a valuable training exercise, as they claim? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm Christina Gomez, and that is it for today. I will see you again next time for another UFO news update. Be safe, and remember, keep your eyes on the skies.
Vasto tractu noctis cosmicae, stelle sussurrant arcana abscondita, enigma vitae, late dispersum, universa mysteria celantia. Extraterrestres nos fortasse speculantur, ex mundis remot.
If you enjoyed today's show, hit that like button. And if you're not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hit the notification bell as I do daily UFO news and updates. Fresh UAP stories, government disclosures, and breaking developments land here every single day.